History.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
We, the people of the United States, in order
with
to
malice
form
toward none, with charity for
I
all,
have a dream
let us strive
that
on.
one day this nation will rise up and live out
It's
the
time for Mind Jogger, the chapter review video quiz. We'll ask the questions and you provide the answers to show what you know about American history. Now, here's your host, Jacqueline Torrance.
Welcome to Mind Jogger. Today's questions will come from Chapter 23, the Vietnam Era. The game will be broken up into 3 rounds with 4 questions in each round. Each correct answer is worth 10 points. Your team has 10 seconds to decide on your answer and hold up your card. If you need to, you can pause the program between questions for extra time. Now it's time to divide up into teams. Be sure to select one person as scorekeeper. We'll pause for a moment to let you organize your teams. Let's begin round 1. Question 1. In what country did the 1961 Bay of Pigs invasion occur? A. Haiti, B. Russia, C. Cuba, D. El Salvador. The correct answer is C. On April 17, 1961, the United States sent a force of 1,400 Cuban exiles to invade the southern shore of Cuba in an attempt to overthrow communist dictator Fidel Castro. Whoever is keeping score, award 10 points to each team with the right answer. Question 2. To end the Cuban Missile Crisis, the United States promised to A. Never invade Cuba, B. Sign a non-aggression pact, C. Remove their missiles in Turkey, D. Provide funds to Cuba. In 1962, United States spy planes discovered Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba capable of reaching several major American cities. The Soviet Union removed the missiles after President Kennedy promised never to invade Cuba. The correct answer, therefore, is A, and that's worth 10 points. Question 3. To help developing nations fight poverty and disease, President John Kennedy set up the A. League of Nations, B. United Nations, C. Alliance for Progress, D. Peace Corps. D is the right answer. In 1961, President Kennedy developed the Peace Corps to assist disadvantaged countries and help prevent the spread of communism. After a period of rigorous training, Peace Corps volunteers would go to a foreign country and teach the people practical skills. By late 1963, there were 11,000 Peace Corps volunteers serving in 40 countries. Mark the scores, and let's continue. Question 4. In 1968, the United States ship, the Pueblo, was seized by A. North Korea, B. Israel, C. Cuba, D. East Germany. In January 1968, the American spy ship, the Pueblo, was seized by communist North Korea. North Korea claims the Pueblo had illegally entered its boundary waters. The Pueblo's crew remained North Korean prisoners for nearly a year. You get 10 points for answering A. That's the end of round 1. How did your team do? Remember, you get 10 points for each correct answer. We'll give you a moment to tally the scores and organize your thoughts. Okay, now it's time for round 2. This round will consist of 4 more questions, all worth 10 points each. You'll have 10 seconds to answer each question. Teams ready? Scorekeeper ready? Then let's begin. Question 1. North Vietnam was controlled by the government of A. Ngo Dinh Diem, B. Ho Chi Minh, C. Cho Minh, D. Mao Zedong. The correct answer for 10 points is B. Ho Chi Minh was the communist leader of North Vietnam. He remained the leader of North Vietnam throughout the Vietnam War and eventually overtook South Vietnam, uniting the nation under communism. Question 2. Which resolution authorized President Lyndon Johnson to use force to stop aggression in Vietnam against American troops? A. The Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, B. The North Vietnam Resolution, C. The Bay of Pigs Resolution, D. The Saigon Resolution. On August 7, 1964, the Senate and House passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, authorizing President Johnson to take all necessary steps, including the use of armed force, to prevent any further communist aggression in Vietnam. The correct answer, therefore, is A. Scorekeeper, please note the scores. Question 3. What was the main American military tactic in Vietnam during the war? A. Slash and burn, B. Naval warfare, C. Atomic warfare, D. Search and destroy. If you answer D, you've earned 10 points. To counter the Viet Cong's hit-and-run attacks, American troops adopted a search and destroy strategy, which entailed searching out enemy troops, bombing their positions, destroying their supply lines, and forcing them out into the open for combat. Question 4. Young American men were legally safe from the Vietnam draft if they A. Worked full-time, B. Were enrolled in college, C. Were under 25 years old, D. All are correct. The correct answer is B. As long as a young man was enrolled in college, he was considered exempt from the Vietnam draft. Many people protested against this policy, arguing that a person from a low-income family with limited education was far more likely to fight in Vietnam than someone from an upper-income family with a good education. That's the end of round 2. Now it's time to figure the score. Remember, each correct answer is worth 10 points. Scorekeeper, it's your turn to total the points from round 2 and add them to the points from round 1. It's now time for round 3. In this final round, you'll have 4 more questions with the chance to earn 10 points for each correct answer. The team with the most total points at the end of round 3 wins today's Mind Jogger. Question 1. President Nixon established nuclear arms agreements with the Soviet Union during the A. NATO negotiations, B. UN negotiations, C. SALT negotiations, D. Paris Summit. The right answer is C for 10 points. In 1969, President Nixon began negotiations with the Soviet Union in Helsinki, Finland, to discuss strategic arms limitations. These meetings became known as the SALT negotiations. Before their conclusion in 1972, the United States and the Soviet Union agreed to ban biological warfare and limit the growth of nuclear weapons. Question 2. What documents prove that the executive branch deceived Congress and the public about Vietnam? A, the Pentagon Papers, B, the Washington pamphlets, C, the presidential papers, D, the Vietnam files. In June 1971, the New York Times published the Pentagon Papers. These documents were a secret Defense Department study revealing that for 2 decades, 4 presidents had escalated the nation's involvement in Indochina and deceived the Congress and public about Vietnam. The correct answer, therefore, is A. Mark the score, and let's go on. Question 3. The Vietnam War ended in A, 1965, B, 1970, C, 1972, D, 1975. It's D. The Vietnam War ended when the Saigon government surrendered on April 30th, 1975. North and South Vietnam were formally united as the Socialist Republic of Vietnam on July 2nd, 1976. You get 10 points for that correct answer. Question 4. What American diplomat helped establish peace between Israel and Egypt in the early to mid-1970s? A, Richard Nixon, B, Gerald Ford, C, Henry Kissinger, D, General Westmoreland. In 1973, Egypt and Israel engaged in conflict over land Israel had captured from Egypt in 1967. After the conflict, the United States Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, worked with both countries to reduce tensions in the Middle East. By 1975, both Israel and Egypt agreed to withdraw their forces from the ceasefire line. Thus, the correct answer is C, Henry Kissinger. While the scorekeeper totals all the final scores, you can discuss what you've learned about the Vietnam era. Congratulations to the winning team in this edition of Mind Jogger. Finding out about history is easy. It's simply a matter of going back in time. We hope Mind Jogger has made it fun.